Welcome to Gaining Ground. This was a videocast, podcast / live hosting that we're doing here at our office, and we're excited to do it. Gaining Ground was born out of the brainchild of helping people to increase their quality of life. We know and understand that when people can gain information to live a better quality of life, everyone benefits. And personally, I feel that we can learn really from anyone. It's just a matter of getting around the right people, work on moving towards increasing a life that's better than where you're at. Gaining ground was something that's been near and dear to my heart, where, I've been in the health and wellness industry for about 20 years, a little over 20 years. I've been doing upper cervical work and the specialty that I do for the last 15. And in, over close to 100,000 patient visits over that period of time, I've realized that people are just looking for something more than who they are. They are at a certain point and they want to work on becoming more than the person than what they've become. So what I've personally done is I've taken a look at my own experiences and what I've been through in my life, and I've broken them down into bite-sized pieces that people can work on taking home and work on improving their own life, but they can also work on touching others. What we're also going to be looking to do, what we have lined up for you as well, is that we are also going to be bringing in other doctors and speakers and influencers in the community that have a really unique understanding about life, whether it's in finances, whether it's in relationships, whether it's through trauma that they've been through. And we're going to work on opening those dialogues up and really helping the community rally around each other because they're learning something from each other. I think that's really important in today's day and age. So that's how we're gonna get started. That's how we're gonna focus. So the way that we're gonna break it down is we're simply gonna give that bite-sized information, and then we may take a few questions, and then we'll wrap it up from there. So one of the ones that I really first wanted to touch on right from the get-go, where a lot of people have really missed the mark, is in record-setting goals. Goals that people can set at a young age, like my kids are 9 and 11, we've actually worked on helping them set goals, where people can work on setting goals as they get older, and people can start to work on setting goals when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70, 80, 90 years old. Why is that near and dear to my heart? Why is that a big deal? Because I realized in my younger years that if I didn't set a goal, I didn't really know where I was going. It was just really the same thing over and over again. And what I mean by that is that when I started my professional career, the goal was to get into a professional office and start to work on helping people. And that was achieved, which was awesome. It was an achievement that I've been working towards for over 15 years. But I realized in doing that, after about a year of being there, that goal was achieved, but after that I really hadn't gotten anywhere. I hadn't gotten to a space of where I thought I wanted to go. And I had to take a step back and think for a second. The reason why I hadn't done that is because I had no destination. I had no place of where I was working on going. The people that are here today, you guys had a destination of what you were coming to. And it was coming to hear part of this message. And you got here and you've achieved that. But if you didn't have a destination, you wouldn't have quite gotten here. You follow me? It's really as simple as that. People kind of make a big deal out of goals, like they'll never be able to achieve something. But the thing is that our bodies and our lives and our minds are attracted towards something that we can move towards. Our brains want to work on getting towards rest after a long day. After we're exerting our muscles, our bodies look forward to resting them after a workout. And the mind naturally works for that. If it's being taxed throughout the day of working or going through a job, it naturally wants to work on relaxing after that. Does that make sense? So for me, once I realized that, I actually began to sat down and write out some of those goals. And I put those goals out for 6 months from there, 6 months from that time period, for a year, for 5 years, 10 years, 15, actually up to 30 years. And today what we're going to do is we're going to go through the nuts and bolts of how to work on creating that and why that's so important. Goals in and of themselves challenge people. Goals in and of themselves are something that a lot of people shy away from because it actually, in their nature, makes people feel uncomfortable. Goals in and of themselves are something that the statistics right now say that 4% of Americans actually work on writing them down. Right now, there's something like 334 million Americans right now. Maybe less over the last 2 years. But there's somewhere around 330 million Americans as of this recording right now. And 4% write those numbers down and write those things down. The statistics show that of the 4% that actually write them down, 9% of those of the 4% that write them down, those people's income are ranked 9 times higher than the 96% that don't write them down. That's just their income. That was the only metric that they actually worked on using. It'd be interesting if they had actually checked out other metrics like happiness or rates of success or whatever that looks like. But it's a big deal when people take a look at what have they actually worked on achieving in life. So for me, I had a dream of working on really helping change people's lives. And that's really the root and the heart of where the podcast comes from. But ultimately, in changing people's lives, it's also changing me as well. It's part of the process. I train a lot of doctors and a lot of students as they're moving through school, and even postgraduate education. And in talking about moving through life, it isn't necessarily the goal that's achieved. It's actually the journey of what it takes to work on creating that goal. That the person that you were when you first started is never the same person that works on actually creating the goal that's achieved. And it's about getting from point A to point B and how you're working on transform to work on creating that. You follow me? Is that the realization that you have to become different from this point to achieve really what you're looking to achieve. And it's about the journey and the process to work on going through that. Is that fair? So over the years, I've learned to become appreciative of what that process looks like. And I've also worked on making those students and doctors aware of that process is what's going to make you the person that you want to be. It's about the process. It's not necessarily about the destination. And just as equally, once you get to that destination, there's often no Super Bowl party or candles or cake or a million people waiting at the finish line once you get there. It's usually quite quiet. It's usually, maybe you and someone else celebrating that goal together. I've learned over the years it's important to take the time to celebrate that goal and rest in that and look back at the journey of what's been created. You follow me? So with that being said, I really just want to work on getting into the nuts and bolts of really what dream casting and goal casting looks like. It's important that people take the time really to do this about once a year. What I would recommend that people do is they actually get out of their own space. Like, I will often create some goals currently in the office that I'm in right now, but a lot of goals I will work on going out of town. So we enjoy spending time in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. So we'll actually go on the beach and start to look out towards the ocean and think bigger about where we're at. I would recommend that you get out of home. You get out of your space. You get out of your city and you go to a place that actually you love and go to enjoy. Maybe it's the beach. Maybe it's your favorite restaurant. Maybe it's a cafe. But we recommend that you get out of something, because you'll often notice that when you go on vacation or you get out of a space that things just get freed up. There's energy in your life that just works on shifting and changing because you're out of your daily atmosphere. So that's the first step. The first step is working on getting out of it. I like to do it at the end of the year. I like to do it between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So between the end of November and the end of December. That's when my juices get flowing. That's when people are often in a more cheery mood because they're celebrating different kinds of holidays. Less emphasis is put on work and more emphasis is put on people. And I tend to have more downtime during then, because we're pushing really hard that fourth quarter to really help people get well. I look at goals a few different ways, and I make different categories for them. It's going to be important for you guys to write this stuff down, and for you guys that are listening and watching, stop the car if you need to, pull out your phone, try not to do all of that at the same time. If you have pen and paper, get that out. If you are able to pull the car over, this is where you can pull your phone out and go to your notes section. Or what I like to do now is actually just send a text message to myself. And I'll set 6-month, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 15 year, 30 year goals. Just like that every time. With that being said, I like to categorize those into different categories. Business is obviously a big one for me because I'm a professional in the area. So it's important for me that we're continuing to help and reach more people and help them get well and change their lives. But remember, there's business, there's family, there's social, there's fitness, there's financial, there's spiritual. There's a number of different categories that you want to work on considering and thinking about, because in being a professional and doing this for so many years, I've seen a lot of people that made 30 professional goals and no family goals, and they end up divorced. You got me? I've seen a lot of people make 30 family goals and only 2 professional goals. And then they can often wonder why their family is the family unit's strong, but the family unit's struggling because professionally they're not making it the way they're supposed to. So you want to work on including different goals that represent different aspects of your life. You follow me? One of those years and years and years ago was to work on bringing an associate doctor here into the office by a specific time frame. And we had to create specific metrics within the office to be able to handle that type of, certainly volume, but also be able to pay that associate doctor and also make sure that everyone was busy. Now, we had set those goals and we'd worked towards those metrics. Did I achieve it? Yeah, we did achieve it. We ended up achieving it about 1.5 years later than what we initially anticipated. But the point is that we were moving in that direction. You follow me? When we start to move in that direction, that allowed us to be able to take care of even more people and help more people find more truth, just like you guys are starting to understand it now. Does that make sense? So with that being said, you want to work on making goals that are part of those different individual categories, and that's obviously an example of one of them. But one of the things that people also completely miss for those that actually do write goals is you're writing down an actual deadline. So we're going to work on losing 15 pounds by December 15th at 6 p.m. December 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And the reason why, again, is that the body, the mind, it's got a destination to get to. It's moving towards something. The other thing is, too, is that you have a deadline. Now, you know yourself a few different ways. You may either procrastinate to do that, or if you don't procrastinate, you'll actually start to work towards, over a period of time, towards that goal. Because if you know that you have to meet it by then you have a specific metric to work on getting to. Does that make sense? Now, you can face that one of two ways. You can take that seriously and you start to work towards it. Or if you don't take it seriously, you start to work on procrastinating and maybe you lost 5 pounds instead of 15 pounds. But you know what? You still lost the 5. You see how that works? The brain, your brain wants specificity. Your brain wants you to get to a point. And the cool thing about our brains, and we're actually going to cover this in our next podcast and videocast that we do, is how your brain actually works. I'm actually really excited about it. It's going to be a fun one. And you can tune into that, and I believe it's at the end of November. Is we have this thing called our subconscious mind, and this mind is at work right now, right? Part of your mind is actually beating your heart right now, but you're not thinking about that. There's a system that's working in your body that's working in the background. I'll say it another way. You were trying to come up with a name or a person that you saw in the neighborhood in a conversation that you were having with someone, and you just for some reason couldn't come up with their name. And we were having a conversation with someone, and you had to talk about this specific person, and you couldn't come up with their name. And 4 o'clock the next morning, what do you think of? You think of what? You think of their name. The reason why is that you had this mind that was going on in the background all the time. There's this Rolodex that happens in your brain that filters through all that stuff, and it took about 8 hours or however long it was to work on getting that information and bringing it to the forefront of your brain. And it had it right there. That's what a goal is. Think about that for a second. What a goal is that if it means that much to you, that your body and your brain is going to start to move towards the end concept of what you're trying to work on creating. Does that make sense? Now, what will make that goal more powerful for you besides writing it down? Thinking about it and reading about it each day, right? So for me, and I don't have a picture on me right now, but we can add it to the video later, is that for me, I have all those goals written down on my mirror so when I get ready in the morning, right? So it's there so that I can work on reading that and keeping it top of my mind. But it's also helpful to read that multiple times a day, like when you brush your teeth in the morning and when you brush your teeth at night. What makes it even more powerful? You actually think about what that goal looks like. So maybe that's having a 400 square foot garden that produces a bunch of tomatoes and okra and broccoli and collard greens, right? Well, if you actually took the time to work on putting that together, but you actually took the time to work on when you went to the grocery store to actually smell collard greens or tomatoes or broccoli, the brain remembers that. And the brain associates those smells with what you're trying to work on creating. And if you get good enough, when you're thinking about your goals during the day, you can actually begin to elicit that same smell. It becomes even more real to you, right? A lot of people have had dreams that when they wake up, they are like shaking, or they're nervous, or they're sweating, or they peed themselves, or something happened to them. The reason why is because the reality of what happened in their brain actually started to come out physically through their body. That's how powerful your dreams are. That's how powerful your wants and desires are. And I found over the years in taking care of people and helping people that a lot of people either give up on their dreams and goals, or they never actually began to write them down and think about what that looks like. And I want to encourage you to work on sitting down and doing that. And I really want to work on encouraging you to sit down and do that with your kids, with your family, with your spouse, with your loved ones, your boyfriends, your girlfriends, your kids. Like last year, I sat down with my kids and I'm like, girls, what do you want to do? Like, what are you looking forward to this year? Or what have we never done that you want to work on doing this year with dad or with mom? Or where do you want to go on vacation? Or what do you want to buy? And we started to write that stuff down. Obviously, we had some laughs about some of that kind of stuff, because some of it was like, ride a unicorn, like, I mean, it's like, my girls are 9 and 11, so we have quite a few laughs, and their mother is just as crazy. But it started to open up in a conversation that I wouldn't have been able to have with my kids if I didn't actually take the time to work on doing that. And for us to be able to open up their imagination like that at such a young age is such a wonderful thing. It's awesome. But it's also really cool that if we can start to work with some adults that have been through it, or they've been through nasty trauma, or they gave up on their goals, those goals are just as achievable. It's just the question is whether you want to work on moving towards those or not. That's really what it comes down to. People will often give up if it's too hard, or they don't get an answer right away, or they pray and they don't hear from whatever creator they believe in. Anything worth it in life requires hard work. Whether it's a happy marriage of 70 some years, whether it is being an excellent, organist, whether it is trying to be the best dad you can be, like all of that requires sacrifice and hard work. But one of the things that I found that helps make the jump into the darkness of not knowing whether you're going to get something or not, or achieve something or not, I've found that faith that you have to have of jumping into the darkness and hoping that you're held by something that you don't even know is there, the goals help make that jump exciting. They create vibrancy to life. They create and open up conversations because you're thinking about something that's beyond yourself. Like, goals make people better. They create juice in life. And they're also intimidating. I said that before. Goals are intimidating because I said before, it actually forces you to become someone different than who you are currently. And for a lot of people, that can be really frightening. But, in the years that I've been doing this, I've found that it's always been worth it. Especially the people that I've worked with that have jumped into the darkness and said, you know what, I'm going to do this because I want to do this. We had a lady that just came in today. I didn't even know she did this, is that she'd been struggling with some health issues for a while, and we've helped out with a number of them, but she ended up losing 20 pounds on her own. She lost 20 pounds since I've seen her. And she just said, everything in my life is better. You know, she's like, keto didn't work, Atkins didn't work, this diet didn't work, that diet didn't work. And she's like, you know what? I just went back to the old school and just started counting calories. So she looked at a certain amount of calories, and that's what she wouldn't go over. And she was eating healthy of those calories that she was consuming. And she did the work. And she got it. She's like, everything in my life is better. I said, well, good for you. We're happy to be a part of that process, but good for you for working towards something that you want to work on achieving. And she's like, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate that. She's like, I got another 20 to lose. I'll let you know when I get there. I said, okay, I'll take that. So, I'm going to leave you with one last quote and really shut it down from there. But before I do that, I want to take the opportunity to ask our guests that actually are here, are there any specific questions that you have that I can entertain our podcast, videocast audience with? And if not, I will work on covering it up from there. You good? Go ahead.
How significant are daily goals versus more long-term, like weekly or 6 months or 5 years or something like that?
Just as, like you couldn't have asked a better question, because that question is actually, the answer to that is the direct quote that I was going to close this broadcast with. So you talked about working in unison with each other. You follow me? Guys, the question was that, like, you know, how important are daily goals into your goals that you create for weeks, months, and years down the road? In summary, right? What a beautiful way to end that. Before I answer that question, our next podcast is going to be November 15th, 2022. It's going to be, we do have a live event here that we're doing. That event is called The Psychology of How We Think. I alluded to that earlier. I'm super excited about what that looks like, because goal setting actually is part psychology, but a lot of people don't understand how their brains actually work. You know, there's a lot about our brain that we don't necessarily understand, but there's a number of things about our brain that we do. And if you can begin to help your brain work for you instead of against you, it's a game changer. So I encourage you guys to be here again. We may have room for you. We may not. I'm not really sure. But to answer your question, and I'm going to close it up with this, is you'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. I'm going to say that again so you can write this down or type it or pull over again like I talked about before. It says you'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. Appreciate you guys being here. This is Dr. Tron Malachowski with Gaining Ground, one day at a time. We look forward to seeing you again. Enjoy your day.